Hello, friends and well wishers, and welcome back to A Quarter Ton of Fun. It's your buddy Ryan, and today we're going to talk about a very appropriate subject matter. We're going to talk about depression, how it's intertwined with my weight, how I've tried to deal with it, and how I struggle with it. And today's a good day for it because I gained weight this week, and you're going to notice this episode I'm doing less with the graphics and editing because I just want to talk to you guys and try to really share some of myself with you. And so I gained 5 pounds this week. I went from this to this. And I blew up at myself this morning. I was cussing and ranting and raving and infuriated. And I don't know why, because it wasn't a surprise, because I know I haven't been doing as well. And I feel like every week for weekly weigh-in lately, I've been saying this, that I know I haven't been doing well and I need to do better. And I didn't do better. Quite frankly, this week I was snacking. I was eating stuff that I shouldn't be eating. I got Chinese food and ate the whole complete thing. After dinner every night, I've been having extra snacks and not counting stuff when I'm logging calories, not weighing my food, just guesstimating. Essentially, other than drinking pop, doing everything wrong and every fat person habit I've ever had and letting them creep back in and letting that mindset sink in again. And it scares me because every time I've tried to lose weight, I've come to a breaking point where I've failed and I've stopped. And I look at what I've accomplished. I weigh 514 now. And I started this somewhere over 600, I think. And if you hear singing or talking in the other room, it's Max. And I apologize, but it's easier to plop him in front of a video game for a half hour while I do this than be a parent, so that's what I'm doing. I worry that I've come to that breaking point where I'm going to stop or I'm going to give up, and I don't want to, and I feel like I'm not going to, but it terrifies me because I know in a lot of ways this could be my last real chance at turning my life around. For reasons I'll get into as I keep going. So I have to try harder. And my overreaction to this sometime in the past when I've gained weight or when I haven't done well is to try that 1,200 calorie diet challenge, which did not go well, as those of you who have been watching know, and or just go way too hardcore with the diet. And I know logically what I have to do is just get back to what has worked for me. Track all my calories, weigh all my foods, stay at my calorie limit or under, and do more exercising. I haven't been doing those things, and I've been disappointing myself and letting myself down. I apologize to you guys because I know there are people, and maybe this sounds egocentric, but there have been people who have come to me and told me what this channel has meant to them, that it's been inspiring, that it's helped them deal with problems, that it's helped them try to lose weight. And that means a lot to me because it's nice to know maybe I'm doing some good with this other than just for myself, having a place for me to yap and having you guys be like my therapist to listen to me. It's nice to know that there are people who are having positive effects from these videos or feel inspired or making them want to lose weight or improve their health. That's awesome. And so I apologize that I'm not doing my part right now. And today so far I've eaten cleanly. I've done well. I've exercised, and I'm really going to try hard to get back to it because I was hoping by the end of the summer I would be below 500 pounds. And now it's not looking like that's going to happen. But I'm going to try my hardest, and I'm going to get back to it. And the truth is, as I've talked about before, I've had some life stress things going on. Some family health issues that I won't go into out of personal privacy and just not wanting to bore you guys with it, but that had me concerned for someone in my family, and things are looking better there. And also, I'm going to be going back to work very soon, and that has me excited because I think it's the best thing for me, and it's going to be nice to be contributing financially to our household again, which I have not been doing since October of last year. And so I'm looking forward to that, but I'm also very nervous about that because it's only part time that I'm going back, which is good. And I want to make sure I can keep up and do it and be a good employee, and give my all to that, the way I'm trying to give my all to being a husband and a father now, in the way that I was not able to before. All right, so that's kind of the reasons that I've been snacking and stressed and going to food. And I need to quit using that all as an excuse and as reasons. I need to focus on what I set out to do, which is to lose weight and get in better health. I've come too far to turn back now, and I have too much on the line to turn back now. So, to get into this, those of you who know me, those of you who have watched the show since the beginning, I think in episode 2, I touched on my depression and the causes for it. But if you don't know, I lost my mom in December of 2016. And she died of a stroke. She had a massive stroke. She was rushed to the hospital. She never woke up again. She spent about a week in the hospital as we let the doctors do tests and some procedures and tried to see what the best course of action was, and for myself and my sister and my dad to all talk and decide what we wanted to do. And the doctor's recommendation was that my mom most likely was never going to wake up from that coma, and if she did, she would not have any sort of meaningful life. She would not have the ability to breathe on her own, eat on her own, recognize us, talk, interact. She would essentially be a vegetable. And we did not feel like my mom would want to continue on like that, just existing and not living. So we made the decision to take her off the breathing machine, and she passed within 45 minutes of coming off of it. So it was obvious those were all that was keeping her alive. And it was devastating in every possible way. I cannot tell you guys how close I was to my mom. We would talk every day, and losing my mom was just devastating. And on top of the personal relationship was just the suddenness with which it came. One minute everything was fine, and the next I'm getting a call that my mom is rushed to the hospital with a stroke, and finding out later that night that she's gone, essentially. And, you know, it's the kind of thing that I didn't even realize how badly it affected me until later on, because my sister and I were then put into a position of being caregivers for my dad. My dad was massively overweight. My dad was had terrible arthritis in his knees. He had heart failure. He, as we later would find out, had developed COPD, had breathing issues. He could not sleep laying down, could not care for himself. In ways even beyond his physical needs, my dad and mom had the kind of relationship where my dad worked, my mom ran the household. And so that meant any kind of household duties like paying bills or, you know, any simple things, cooking, cleaning type stuff, my dad was clueless about because he had never had to worry about it. He went from living with his mom, who took care of those sorts of things, to living with a wife who took care of all those sorts of things. And he, at that age, was not willing to learn or try to learn. So my sister and I had a ton of responsibility taking care of my dad, and it was tough. And I think I didn't properly grieve over the loss of my mom or let it all sink in because we were so focused on taking care of Dad and we had so much to do. And my dad's health got worse and worse. My dad ended up having a situation where he needed to be on oxygen. He would not wear it if we weren't there with him, and he had needed to be on oxygen probably for a lot longer than really the doctors had put him on it. And he started having degradation in his brain from it, and the COPD and the heart failure had gotten worse and worse. And I think because of the grief my dad was going through, he wasn't willing to change his eating habits or work on trying to fight any of that stuff. He would fight us on going to the doctor. He would skip medications. He would not wear the air that he was supposed to. It was a challenge. And my dad went into the hospital. He spent pretty much the last month and a half of his life in the hospital. And he very rapidly went downhill, and the heart failure and the COPD took him. And when that happened, I was again devastated because my dad was kind of one of my best friends. Any of you who've ever watched one of my videos and laughed, you should thank my dad for that, because he is where I got my sense of humor. Very early on in life, he exposed me, probably too early, when it was not appropriate, to things like Monty Python and Saturday Night Live and the Three Stooges and Mad Magazine, and that all shaped my sense of humor and gave me a way to deal with the world and to deal with my problems, is laugh, make other people laugh. And my dad and I loved playing games together, video games, board games, watching sports together. We had a lot in common, and we got along really, really well. And losing him, I think it allowed me to really grieve for both of them, in a way that I hadn't to that point. And it all hit me. It all hit me. And I think I've always had depression of some sort all through my life. I think I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I was sad more than I should have been. I knew I had trouble dealing with people and situations sometimes in ways that are weird and couldn't really be explained. And I had been dealing with depression pretty heavy duty, I think, since my mom died. And when my dad died, it just got worse. But I tried to hide it and I tried to fight it. And I tried just kind of going along like things were okay. Now, after my mom died, I had went to my doctor and told her about some of the problems I was having with depression. And I was starting to have periods where getting out of bed and like dealing with life was tough. And as bad as things had been before that, and it had never gotten that bad to where even just interacting with my wife and my kid was a struggle. Doing anything but eating and sleeping was a struggle. And I was put on a fairly low dose medication for depression and anxiety. And it did help. It kind of took the edge off of things, in that the lows were not so low, but also the highs were not so high. And it was hard for me to get super depressed about things. I would get depressed, but it would sort of mellow out, which was good. After my dad died, I was still on the medication. I'm still on it now, but I felt numb. I felt dead inside in some ways. And I think that the shock of losing them drove me to a place of just not caring anymore about myself and just feeling lost. And so my dad died at the end of July last year. In September, I went back to work. I had been off for the summer. I went back to work at the university. I worked at, did food prep. And I worked September and October. In October, I hurt my back and I had a problem with my sciatic nerve. And it was one of the most painful and scary things I've ever had happen to me, because I've had pain from injuries and things that have happened before, but I have never had something where I literally felt like I couldn't function, like I could not move. And it was terrible. And so I essentially quit my job to try to heal up from that. And I was off work ever since. I'm going to be going back soon. And like I said before, I'm excited about that. But once I was off work, I fell into a bad pattern of I would take my son to school, my wife would leave for work, and I would go to the store and buy snacks and pop every day. I'd buy a 2 liter of pop or more. I'd buy a family size bag of chips. I would buy some sort of cookies or brownies or something, and I would buy like frozen Chinese food or frozen burritos or, you know, chicken nuggets or something like that. And I would come home and eat all or most of that, wash it down with the 2 liter of pop, and those were my days. And then I would usually go and nap until it was time to get my son from school. And I would bring him home from school and I would ignore him. He would play video games or watch TV or YouTube or something, and I would space out, or sit in a chair and sleep. And my wife would come home and I would make something for dinner and we'd eat, and then I would go back to bed and sleep the night away. And if I wasn't asleep, I was eating. And if I wasn't sleeping or eating, I was miserable. And I was not being any kind of father. I was not being any kind of husband to them. And that was the pattern from the middle of October, really to the end of that year. In the new year, I was going to go back to work, and my car broke down, and it was a repair that we could not afford to fix. So my wife talked to me, and essentially we made a deal that I would stay home and not work for the time being and get my health in order. She wanted me to work on myself, and I agreed to that, but I didn't do it. Instead, I essentially kept doing the same things, except I didn't have a car when she would leave, so I would find other ways to get what I wanted. When I went grocery shopping, I would just buy a ton of snacks and food and stuff and have it for the week. I would still go and buy, when I went grocery shopping, 6 or 7 or 8 bottles of pop, 2 liters of pop, and drink them throughout the week. And I was just sitting home doing nothing. I couldn't take my son to school now, so my wife was taking him. My in-laws were picking him up from school and bringing him to me. So I just did nothing. I sat around the house and napped and ate and hated myself and thought about dying and thought about how worthless I was. And it's a vicious cycle you get into. I felt like I couldn't break out of it. I would want to. Every day, I would think, I've got to stop this. I got to change. I can't go on like this. I'm going to die, or my wife's going to leave me, or, I can't go on like this. I'm not being the person I want to be. I'm not anything anymore. I'm not a provider. I'm not a husband. I'm not a father. I'm not a man. I'm nothing. I'm a lump of uselessness. And I would sit there and eat because it made me feel better, and it made me forget for a little while. Or I'd sleep because when I was sleeping, I didn't have to think about it. And it was awful. It was, my everyday existence was terrible. I didn't want to be here anymore. I just wanted it all to end. And I think I was too much of a coward to do it with a gun or a knife or pills. So I was going to do it with food. I was going to eat until my heart gave out and I was no more. And in my head, I thought it would be for the best, because who would miss someone like me who was, you know, I didn't see any value in myself. I didn't see any worth in myself or my life, and so I had a hard time seeing how anyone else could see it. So, and I've teased this for a long time, but I'm going to finally let you guys in on the reason that I finally started doing all this. That continued through January and into February, the middle of February. And one night, I believe it was a Saturday, my son had a party at his dance studio. So he was going to be at that for like 3 hours. So we took him to that. And it was my wife and I sitting here. And we were figuring out we were going to go get something to eat. We were figuring out where we were going to go. And I could tell there was something on her mind. And I could tell she was very, very sad. And she essentially told me that she was living every day with the fear that she or my son was going to walk in and find me dead. And that, she didn't give me an ultimatum, she didn't give me a threat, but she just told me like it is. She couldn't put up with this anymore. She couldn't be with me the way I was. And that she loved me and she wanted to be with me, but she couldn't watch me do this to myself. And we had a really long talk. And I saw everything that I value in this world slipping away from me. I saw the woman that I loved from the moment I saw her. And she had a boyfriend. He's a really nice guy. Mike, I know you probably don't watch these, but you're a really nice guy, and I'm sorry I used to hate you because you were with her. You were a cool guy, and that's on me. And I just fell for her. From the minute I saw her, I knew. And our relationship isn't perfect, but she's the perfect woman for me. She has stood by me at times that she probably shouldn't have. And the only reason I'm probably still in her life is because of the love she had for me and the love she had for our son and wanting to keep our family together. And that's hard to say and that's hard to admit, but that's true. But I had let my addiction and my depression drive me to a place where there was no coming back from. And I saw my wife leaving me. I saw only being able to see my son every once in a while. And I know there's a lot of divorced people who go through that. And God bless you, because I know it's got to be the hardest damn thing not to be able to see him whenever you want. Because one of the highlights of my day is seeing that little boy and hugging him and knowing how his day went and how he is, and the thought that I could put myself in a position to lose her and to lose him. That was too much. And it woke something up inside of me. And it made me realize that I do have value. My life does matter. If for nothing else, because it matters to her and it matters to him. And because they matter to me. And I let them down. And I was not the man I should have been. I let myself down because I am capable of so much more than I've shown. And I'm sorry. I'm a big crybaby. I don't know why I try. TV commercials make me cry. Okay, sad movies or songs, forget about it. I used to be much more stone cold. And then once you get older and you get married and you have a kid, you're just, you turn to jelly. in more ways than one. But that conversation we have, and I'm so grateful that my son went to that dance. And that my wife had that conversation with me, because I know it was hard for her to come and tell me those things and say them to me. It's uncomfortable. You don't, it was confronting a lot of things that had built up over time, but it was stuff that needed to be said, and it was things that I needed to hear, but it wasn't anything I didn't know. I knew it, and that's why it hit so hard, and that's why it affected me so much, because I knew what I was doing. I knew I was falling to pieces. And I needed to gather myself up and try. And so that's when I say it terrifies me to think of failing again, because, and I don't, listen, things are much better in our relationship now than they were even in February. I've worked really hard on being honest with my wife, on letting her know how I'm feeling and what's going on with me, and just being a better husband and father. And I'm going to get myself back to work so I can work on eventually being a provider. Right now it's going to be, part-time, small potatoes, but I'm going to get there. Things are a lot better now, and I know, just because I gained 5 pounds this week, I'm not going to find my suitcase on waiting for me to get out. I don't think. I hope not. We'll see. But I can't go back to what I was and how I was. And she's given me a long leash. Way more of it than I deserve. And I'll be the first to admit that. But I can't go back, because I can't lose her. And I can't lose my boy. And I can't lose myself again. Because I did not feel like myself for the longest time. I was often happy on the outside, but I was never happy on the inside. And since getting control of my eating and losing some weight and being more active and out and doing more things with my family, I've been so much happier. It's night and day. So I can't go back. I can't go back for them, and I can't go back for me. So I'm going to keep pushing forward. And it's going to be hard, guys. I'm going to have times like this where I just feel like a failure, because those old habits are slipping back in. It's hard. It's hard to fight them. But I'm going to keep fighting, because I don't want to lose this chance. I've come too damn far now to give up. And on my 40th birthday, I will weigh 300 pounds or less. So that means I'm going to get my work boots on. And I'm not going to go crazy with the 1,200 calories or, not eating, or that's stupidity. I'm going to keep to my 2,500 calories or lower. I'm going to drink a lot of water. I'm going to work out more, exercise more, get moving. I'm going to eat better foods, less snacking. All the things that have worked for me. And keep not having pop. And I'm so proud that I have not reverted to pop. Thank God I've been able to keep that out. And I'm going to make sure that from now on, I live a happier, healthier life. And I'm going to try to achieve some of the goals I have for myself. So I have my reason. My reason to want to lose weight is my family. They mean everything to me. We were sitting yesterday. I was giving my wife a back rub, so she was sitting like in front of me on my chair. My son was curled up, laying on my shoulder, watching TV. And our cat Kayla came and jumped up on the other arm of the chair, sitting there. And I looked around at all that I had. And I realized how lucky I was. And what they meant to me. And I want to enjoy that as much as I can. I want to be around that as long as I can. So failure is not an option. Only success. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, comment. Social media, Twitter, quarter fun, Instagram, a quarter ton of fun. I'll be back next week. I don't know what I'll be talking about, and I'm probably going to be starting back to work next week. So I don't know exactly what my posting schedule is going to be. I'm going to keep doing an episode every week. I may have to change the day or the time, depending. We will see. And I'm sorry if this episode was more of a downer than usually. I'll try to be funnier next week. But it was something I really wanted to talk about. And right now it's something I really needed to talk about. So it kind of worked out perfectly. And I hope maybe there's some of you out there watching who get something out of it. If you're suffering from depression, don't be afraid to get help. To go to a doctor, to go to a psychiatrist, to take medication, to fight back against it. Because it is like a tidal wave that'll take you down and pin you. And if you don't fight with everything you got, you're not coming out of it. And I got my inspiration to fight, and I hope you find yours too. Because we are damn sexy.